That's really all the French I know. So I'm glad to know that you guys, I didn't have to give the presentation in French. It's my first time in Vancouver, actually my first time in BC. And I did live in Oregon for several years, so I'm familiar with your brand of sunshine. And so I kind of felt right at home in the showers. This is me. I always don the cowboy hat, but I was told this is not Calgary, so the hat needed to stay at home. I am past president of ODTUG. I thought I was just keeping the seat warm for Martin. Martin's our vice president now, so we've got the ability here in the room to answer any questions you may have for ODTUG. We're happy to associate ourselves with ODTUG and happy to have them sponsor the event. I am an Oracle ace. I also spend a lot of time on Twitter, so I'd ask you to join the Latiolais Nation and follow me on Twitter. Tweets so sweet you'll swear they're more than 140 characters, so please join me. Also, I tend to blog a lot about all things Oracle, so by all means. Quick mention of Insum. That's where we spend our days. Actually, if you have a need for Application Express expertise, we are the largest on the continent. We are probably by this time we're the largest in the world as far as Apex consultancies go. So if you have the need for Apex expertise, make us your first call. All right, here's the ground we're going to cover today. We're going to do a little bit about introduction to SQL Developer. We're not going to go very deep into just the SQL Developer. We're going to spend a lot more time as it results to Application Express. And so we'll talk about browsing, how you can import, export, and deploy. There's some things that I feel pretty confident that we're not doing here in the area of remote debugging. And finally, reporting. There's some really sweet capabilities that SQL Developer gives you with regard to reporting against Apex applications. And then if we really want to live on the edge, we'll do some live demos. Everybody knows how risky and how exciting, not risky, how exciting live demos are. So, all right, SQL Developer 101. Can anyone tell me what this is? Can y'all see it from the back there? There you go. It's a multi-tool, and so they're also called Leatherman. You know, there's tremendous capabilities here, though. You know, I've got a pair of pliers. Not going to go through every option here, but I got a screwdriver, got various knife blades, even a saw. Quite sharp, by the way. And that's precisely what I think about when I think about SQL Developer, because SQL Developer in every way is a multi-tool, because we've got all this capability in one tiny little tool. Let me explain. Here are some of the things that people normally do or can normally do with PL SQL Developer. It's a PL SQL IDE, SQL Editor. I would say 90% of what we use the tool for is as a PL SQL IDE or as a SQL Editor. There's tremendous capabilities. There's 3 here on the list and 5 more on the next page that are features of the tool, capabilities that you can take advantage of. It's great to bring in data from like SQL Server and that kind of stuff, but most of us use it for a PL SQL IDE and just to write and prep our SQL queries. There's even a new command line interface. I don't know if you DBA types may be aware of it, and it's most of the same functionality as SQL Developer. However, it's from the comfortable command line that you guys are used to. Now, one thing that's not there is all the SQL Developer and Apex features, and that they're here. You can browse your Application Express applications from SQL Developer, export and import. You can drop applications. You can export individual pages. You can tune your queries, but that really kind of falls under SQL Developer's core. There's some included reports and also some user-defined reports that we can create, and we'll actually show you some of those in just a second. The history of the tool, it's as old as my son. And that's hard to believe because, you know, it was started back in 2005. For the first 5 years or so, I really didn't give it much of a thought. It was just too immature. You know, at the time I was using SQL Developer from All Around Automations. I was using SQL Navigator, the stepbrother to Toad, and the SQL Developer was just not ready for prime time. But it's continued to evolve and it's continued to grow, and now I feel I'm partial to it, but I feel like it's every bit as mature as some of the other tools, and it's ready for prime time. Now, a large part of the reason it's continued to evolve and continue to grow and continue to mature is because of the senior principal product manager. That's Jeff Smith. If you're going to do anything with SQL Developer, you really need to follow Jeff Smith. He's prolific when it comes to blogging, tweeting. Look at that, 75,000 tweets, and you know it's just constant. And he'll continue to throw tweets back from 6 months ago, a year ago, just continually providing tips and techniques on how to best utilize the tool. But definitely read his blogs and follow him on Twitter. You'll be glad you did. But be warned, you'll end up in one of his blog posts. That's what happened to me. I sent him a question one day. We had a client that needed their deployment scripts in a pretty specific format, and Jeff turned me on to some of the cart functionalities that come into SQL Developer, and so he was able to put a blog post around it. But he's point being is we're lucky to have somebody like Jeff on our side, because he really is very, very responsive to the community's needs. In fact, I had a question last night. Remember, we're 3 hours. He's on the East Coast, so we're 3 hours behind him. And last night I got the answer from him. Well after hours. He's that kind of guy. Send him a tweet. If we send him something right now before the end of my presentation, I guarantee we'd have an answer. Instead of that, and his Twitter handle is that Jeff Smith. I'm thinking that there's more than one. It's got to be those Jeff Smiths, or something like that, because the guy's everywhere. All right. Now let's talk about, now that we kind of glossed over some of the SQL Developer items, let's talk a little bit more about how it relates to Application Express and what we can do with Application Express. And it's browsing. So how do we get to the browsing capabilities? In the Connections panel, we're going to go through a series of screenshots. In the Connections panel, all the way near the bottom, there is a node called Application Express. If you click that node, you'll see a tree that expands, and it's got all the applications that have been compiled in that parsing scheme. In this case, I just grabbed 2 off the packaged apps. If you open that up, you'll see all the different pages that are part of the app. Now, can we get all this through the Apex Builder? Sure we can, but this is just another way to get into the information, to view it, because maybe you want to see some things, and we'll get into this a little bit later in the demo. Maybe you want to see some things side by side, where you wanted to look at 2 apps side by side, and there really is no way to do that with the Apex Builder unless you open up 2 browsers. So if we looked at one of the pages, you'd be able to see, or one of the applications, here's the information at the application level. If you want to look at the, I don't want to block your view, but here you see application, pages, LOVs, list, all the things that all the components of your Apex page, you can provide detail on any one of these. In this case, I chose LOVs. Here's all the LOVs in that app. Now, in the very bottom here, you can see it's either query or static. So if it's a dynamic LOV, you can actually get the query. If it's a static LOV, you're actually able to see the static values. Here's an example of the dynamic LOV, where you actually can see the query that was comprised, that LOV was comprised with. And here's the components for, well, page 0 is probably not the best example. On page 0, you've got 2 regions, and then pretty much, nothing else. It's just a bare page. But But let's look at maybe a more relevant page, page 7. Okay, on page 7, this is kind of a summary. There's 2 regions, 15 different items, 4 buttons, no computation. So it's kind of a high-level view of your page. All right, next thing on the list is the ability to import, export, and deploy. We have DBAs in the house, a few, couple. I'm not sure you guys are currently, deploying in this manner. I'm not going to try to talk you into deploying in this manner. It's just telling you what's available to you. So if you chose to bring in your applications like this, export them, or deploy them from one schema to the other, you have these capabilities in the tool. For exporting, right mouse click on the application, go down to Quick DDL, save to file, and that's your export file. For importing, right mouse click on the application, go down to Import Application. And for deployment, right mouse click, there below Import Application, you see Deploy Application, and that would prompt you for the schema that you're going to deploy it to. All right, here's a tidy little, a neat little feature where you can actually invoke a debugger from your application. So if you've got an application that's not failing, but it's not returning the correct results, then this is one way to do it. You would actually open the browser and SQL Developer at the same time, and you'll be able to see real time what these values are. So let's talk a little bit about the setup that allows this to occur on the SQL Developer side first. On the SQL Developer side, you need to issue 3 grants. In this case, my schema is HR schema. So it's grant debug connect section to HR. Then you need to grant debug any procedure to the Apex public user, and then grant execute. On this package right here, this DBMS debug JDWP is what we use to start the listener and to stop the connection between the 2 sessions. And that needs to be granted execute to your user schema. Next step we need to do is under connection panel, see where it's highlighted with remote debug. You need to start the listener. When you do that, it's going to prompt you for 2 pieces of information. It's going to prompt you for the port. You can leave timeout. I don't do anything with timeout, but I specify a port and I specify an IP or a host name. In this case, we just use localhost. Now in the stored procedure, we need to add 2 lines, those ones that are highlighted in yellow. You need to basically make that call to connect TCP, providing again the IP or the host name and the port number. And then at the bottom, when you want the session to break connection with the debugger, you would issue the DBMS debug JDWP disconnect. Last thing you want to do is after you've made these changes to your stored procedure, you need to compile for debug. You need to compile for debug. If you don't compile for debug, then you're not going to, those sessions aren't going to be connected, and you won't be able to see the activity from your browser from SQL Developer. On the Apex side, you don't really have to do much at all. You just simply need to run your app with debug on. You can do that 2 ways. You can specify debug in the developer's toolbar across the very bottom. See the highlighted section called debug. Or you can specify the debug option in the URL, which off the top of your head, you know what position that is? Well, there's a, I wanted to say it's position 7. Anyway, you can specify in the URL, yes or no, whether debug is to be turned on or off. Either one of those will work. And what does that really do for you? Well, you open up your application, your Apex application in debug mode, and as soon as it hits a breakpoint, your browser freezes. So you go to SQL Developer, and at this point, I'm able to specify, I'm able to see what these values are. Like, see where it says country ID? And anything you mouse over, it'll throw a pop-up out that tells you, if I want to know at this point, because at this point, execution has halted, and I'm able to, because I'm at a break point, and I'm able to mouse over anything, any value, any variable in my stored procedure, and it'll give me the current value of that variable. And then up here, let me cross over if you don't mind. Up here is the normal step into, step out of. So you're able to step through this code just like you would in the regular debugger. Remember, your browser is just sitting over here halted. Once you get to this line, then you go back to your browser and pick up business as usual. So it's very powerful. I don't really know anyone who's really using it, to tell you the truth. Everybody still, they'll throw DBMS output statements in their code, and they'll send stuff to the Apex debug logs and stuff like that. But this is something I'm going to spend some more time with in the days to come, because I think it's got some real possibilities. Right now, to the best of my knowledge, it's going to allow us to debug stored procedures. Now, I think that there's going to be a way for me to actually debug the code that's in the Apex app and not just called from stored procedures. I think that's the next thing that, if I can crack that case, I'll blog about it, and you guys can, and we'll revisit that. But right now, you're able to debug the code in your stored procedures called from your Apex application. All right. Here, bring this up again. Next, we're going to talk about reporting. So, that was quick. So, where do we get to the reporting? Under the view, you go down to the highlighted reports. And what that does is that opens another window underneath your connection panel. See where it's highlighted reports? Next, go to data dictionary reports. There we go. And what do you see? A node with Application Express. They've done us the solid of putting about 6 or 8 reports that are canned reports there. There you go, active sessions, applications, application statistics, pages, schemas, UI defaults, and a couple of more there. Those are canned reports. Those are already there waiting for you, ready for you to use. We also have the ability to, here there's a list of the reports there. We also have the ability to create our own reports. If you're not happy, if those don't suit your needs, then you can create your own user-defined reports, and they'll be hanging off the menu just like these canned reports that are provided by Oracle. And that's where the at the very bottom there in the reports panel is user-defined reports. You can create a folder structure under there if you like. It's for you to configure as you like. All right, you guys feel lucky? I was hoping you'd say no, but let's go for it. Okay, what do I need to do here? There we go. Yeah, I'm going to use it here. All right, we talked about the browsing. So let's go, let's show you how that looks in action. So where's our Apex node? Where you see that? Oh, there it is. Thank you. All right. So here's the applications. If I was to go in and install another application, there'd be another, and hit refresh, there would be another application show up under here. So let's take a look a little bit deeper here. There we go. There's the application level stats for application 102, just the packaged app for sample database application. If we want to go in there and see the pages. There they are. LOVs. We already went through some of this. Static, static, static. And there's static values. So there's only a yes for that one. So you can kind of see how you can traverse these things. One of the things that's kind of cool is, again, having the ability to look at these things side by side. And this is one of the questions that Jeff Smith answered for me last night. Because if you'll notice, whenever you go to another app, it just replaces what's in that panel. Now we're looking at application 103. If I want to see information on application 102, how do I see them side by side? Jeff gave me the answer. What you do is you pin, then you come in here and you open the second one, then you right mouse click and go to new document tab group. And now I've got these things side by side. And that's the only way that I know you can really do that, because again, I'm not sure of any way to do that within the browser without opening two browser sessions. So it's a very powerful. Again, it's a different look into your application, because you don't get this linear look when you're in the builder. Okay, let's see what we got. Let's see, that's browsing. Are we already on remote debugging? Oh, the deploying and all that. So what we would do is we could do a quick DDL, save the file, cross your fingers, test, and this would be create my export file. We won't go through all these. And in 5 minutes or less, we have our export file. All right, import, there's our import option, and there's our deploy option, okay? Remote debugging, this is where the fun starts. This is where the fun starts. Okay, I've already prepped this thing. You guys watch the Food Channel, we already did all the prep. Now we're ready to take the cake out of the oven. Here's the grants that were made. Here. So I've already done my grants. Now we're to the point where we want to go ahead and run the application. We have the listener running. We've got a breakpoint here. Just to throw a demo out here, I basically said just pull from this the columns from a table called countries. And so what we're going to look for is how these things, I think there's only one second. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's go over here. All right, so you see this country ID, country name, region ID. Okay, so we're going to step through these in that loop, okay? And there's our breakpoint right there. Come on, give me control, because what I'm wanting to see now is that the browser halts, and then I'll go to SQL Developer. And then we can look at those things. We can step through the code, and we can see how we traverse through that SQL. Okay, here we go. All right, country ID. Now, if we step through, then we go to country name. And if we step through, then we get to region ID. So you can see how if the results are coming back from your Apex application, and and they're not making sense to you, you're actually able to step through the code and identify. Also, this is what I was trying to explain earlier. It was hard to see from the slide, but if you mouse over these things, I can mouse over any variable in my code, in my stored procedure, and I can see the real-time value there. Very powerful, very powerful. So there's pname, ptable name, vSQL. Okay, there's its current value is country name. This will be the same one, I'm sure. Let's see what it's called. Oh, that's just the row variable. Okay. And if we keep going, step through, then when we go back to the browser, see, now we're at the disconnect. And if we go back to the browser, we should have, yep. See, now we have the ability to, now the browser's live again. The browser's not halted because we reached that disconnect. Now control is back onto the browser window. All right, reporting. Let's talk about reporting. Okay, does anyone remember where we got to reports? It was under view. Come down here to reports. There's our reports panel. Here are the, where are we at? Data dictionary reports. There's our application express node. Let's take a quick look at these canned reports that are provided by Oracle. Some of these are pretty cool because they actually have parent-child, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, the first one was just on active sessions. There we have that. Secondly, let's look at all of our applications. All right, we had the 4 that were in the Apex node. Now you can drill down into any of these, and as you'll notice, look, see in the bottom? So this is the parent, and the child table down here will refresh with whatever selection's made. So it's really cool. And you have the ability to create these on your own too. When it comes to the user-defined reports, you have the ability to create these parent-child reports to your liking. Application statistics. And there's some run times, the number of visits, that kind of stuff that you DBA types are really interested in. Average response times. And so we have the ability, these user-defined reports that you can create. You can create charts just as easy. All this functionality is provided to you. You can create charts. You can create HTML formatted reports. So you could have some stuff that's really prettied up with logos and specifying different headers, different footers. So it doesn't just have to be a tabular representation of your data. Pages, we'll spin through this really fast. Application ID, okay, let's just give it 102. And there's our pages. This is very similar to the view that we looked at previously when you just go under your connection in your application express node. Schemas, we only have one schema right now. This is all in VirtualBox. You guys using VirtualBox? Yes? Does anyone here not really know what VirtualBox is? Because it's worth taking a minute and explaining it.
It's part of Windows 10 now.
It's part of Windows 10 now?
No, on Windows 10, if you install VirtualBox, it's not working.
Okay. Is that's the newest version of VirtualBox as well?
Yeah.
Okay, because we may be able to find a combination that works. Sometimes maybe back revving VirtualBox would work. You can find the older versions, but VirtualBox is a Sun product. When Oracle purchased Sun back, what's it been, 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago? 2009, somebody said?
8 or 9.
Okay. One of the things that came along with that acquisition was VirtualBox, and it's really a great product because for demos like this, it's an environment that you can have. It's like the Hyper-V stuff on the Windows side, where you can create your own virtual machines. If I wanted to have, this is a Windows box right here, but if I wanted to run one of the Mac OSs on this machine in a virtual machine, I would do so with VirtualBox. The coolest thing about VirtualBox is Oracle has created all these pre-built VMs. If you want to look at the SOA suite, if you want to look at some of the developer tools, if you want to look at BI, there's no reason to spend a lot of effort. Some of these Oracle installs are very complex, and it's very tedious to get it working right. You don't have to worry about any of that. All you do is download your appliance, and then just do a simple install into VirtualBox. Everything's already configured. Most of them already have sample data with them. So if you're trying to just kind of kick the tires for evaluation purposes, please take the time to download VirtualBox. It's free. Download these pre-built VMs. They're free. It's not going to cost you a thing. Not going to cost you a thing. You obviously can't use it for production purposes or anything like that. The licenses certainly aren't for that. But for a situation like what we have here tonight, it's really saves you a whole lot of effort. We talked today about building. I guess my time's about done. We talked about building these environments, and it's almost like personal preference, because I kind of like having everything already kind of configured and installed. Martin and Adrian, they have experience using Oscar, where they've got some scripts, and if I misspeak, please correct me, where they've already kind of prepped the scripts for you, and you can basically run these scripts, and you'll end up with a fully installed environment that has XE on it, and the Node.js driver. Everything's already kind of pre-configured. So that's another way to go about it. I haven't spent any time with Oscar or anything like that. If you have some questions there, please get with Adrian and Martin. They can answer those questions. But definitely, I definitely think VirtualBox is well worth your time, especially if you're doing some demos, or especially if it's something that is a pretty complicated install. Let Oracle do the work, and you can be the one to benefit. Okay, let's quickly look at the user-defined reports. And you come down here, you right mouse click, you can create a new report or a new folder, self-explanatory. I create a new report. The Apex dictionary is really got a ton of information in there, and it's really something that sources a lot of these reports for me. If we go to look at it really quick, select asterisk from Apex dictionary. All right, and so what this is, this right here shows all the views complete with descriptions, and each column in that Apex view has descriptions on that too. So I created two little sample reports. Let's say, with Apex, a lot of the time the information may already be there in one of the supplied views. Damn, talk faster, Monty. All the like the Apex views here. Let's look at this report. This says there's a view that we can use that's in Apex called Apex Themes. What is it? It's a list of Apex built-in public workspace themes. You can go down. All these are individual views that are available to us as we do our development in Application Express. If I want to see the details on any one of those, like I said, let me show me the details of the Apex themes. So let's look at that. All right, Apex Themes has 6 columns. The first column identifies. I should put the column name in there. So let's do that. Let's edit. And this is where I'm able to go in there and modify the query. And we are almost fixing to have to be out of juice here. So you can come in here and create the parent-child reports that I demonstrated earlier. You can create HTML reports. You can create the tabular reports. You can create charts, bar graphs. All that's available right here through the report capabilities of SQL Developer. Let me go back to here. PDF. You know what? If you allow me to get your email address, I'll get the answer and get it back to you. Oh man, we're out of juice. Actually, this is the we're at the end of the presentation anyway. I'll get you the answer on the PDF. I'll get you the answer on the PDF. I think you can. I think there is a PDF capability. I also think that there's scheduling and stuff that you can have these things automatically scheduled and distributed as well. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Easy questions go to the front of the line. All right, no questions? This is the part where you applaud.